Back in 1980, Paul Volcker famously raised interest rates to 21% and brought inflation back under control. But you have to remember how much the national debt was in 1980. It was about 50,000 tons of gold. Right, the world supply of gold is roughly 200,000 tons, and we owed 50,000 tons of gold. Today we owe 500,000 tons of gold. Now, chew on that thought, right? We owe all of the gold that has ever been mined throughout history 3 times over, right? Try to make sense of that thought in your mind. And right now, inflation, as I speak, is about 10%. If we were to raise interest rates to 10%, that means every year we would have to pay 50,000 tons of gold in interest, compared to over here when it was 20%, we had to pay 10,000 tons of gold a year. Right? Not to mention GDP is a lot lower today. That's what a lot of people don't realize. What will probably have to happen is the feds will have to pivot, have hyperinflation until we get down to this kind of level, so about 10 times inflation. And then we can raise interest rates to a more normal level of 20 or 30 or even 40%, because by that time, inflation will be a whole lot higher. You'll need higher interest rates just to do anything about inflation. So I wouldn't be surprised if by the year 2030, $1 in 2030 will only buy what 10 cents buys in 2020. Now, a lot of people think there's no way that one day I'll wake up and my dollar will be worthless. The truth is, you won't wake up and your dollar will become worthless. You'll look back and your dollar will be worthless. What do I mean by that? Well, if prices were to go up 10 times, right, in a decade, so what was $1 today will be $10 10 years from now. Well, what percent do prices have to increase to go up tenfold in 10 years? The way to calculate that is to take 10 and raise it to the power of 1/10, right? And the answer to that is about 25-26% inflation a year. Now, what about if you did it per week? There are 52 weeks in a year. So if you buy $100 worth of groceries in a week, the next week it will cost you 44 cents more. I think most people can imagine that, right? In fact, it might already be happening as we speak. Now, right now as I speak, there's a great resignation going on, quiet quitting. I want to look at wages in terms of gold. And you are making about as much gold today as you were in 1980. You have not gotten a raise in 43 years. I work at a tutoring center, and I have a 18-year-old kid who just got his first job at a fast food place, and he was making more money than me, but he quit his job. And the reason he quit was because he had a fellow female coworker who was harassing him. And when I heard it, I kind of felt sorry for him. But at the same time, he was making so much. I think what he should have done was stood up for himself and take the money and enjoy it elsewhere, right? I would love to be making that kind of money when I was 18. But it goes to show that not only are we making as much as we did in 1980, we're putting up with all sorts of wacky work conditions. Now let's look at, so my student, he's getting ready to go to college. I think most of us think college prices are out of control. It actually costs less to attend college than it did in many years past, including in the 50s, 60s, including when I went to college. It's about as expensive as it was in the early part of the 20th century. The truth is, when people complain about college being expensive, what they're really complaining about is the return that you get after you graduate from college being too low, right? In the 60s, you actually got a good return out of it. Now, what I really love, I wish they would show strategic metals on here. How about iron ore? That's probably the closest thing there is to, not really. But a lot of the strategic metals are heavily undervalued compared to gold. I'm talking about indium, bismuth, tellurium, thallium, and the lanthanides and the actinides. All of those are considerably undervalued relative to gold. I like to think of gold as a 5,000-year-old cryptocurrency. Also, the companies that are mining gold stocks are also incredibly low right now.